Hey friends, I made some delicious, creamy chicken and wild rice soup for supper the other night, and I'm going to show you just how I made it. Now, last fall, we took a trip up north Wisconsin and we picked out a few bags of wild rice. And tonight, we're going to have this Minnesota long grain wild rice. Now, this is a bit of a process to cook, so I'm going to show you how I did this part. I wanted to measure out everything that's in the bag because I decided to make the whole bag, and then I froze the extra. This was 2.5 cups of wild rice. So first things first, we're going to take it over to the sink and we're going to rinse this a couple of times. You want to make sure that you rinse your wild rice before you use it. Now, once you get that rinsed a few times, now we're going to add in the water, or you can add in chicken broth for extra flavor. So I would suggest either salted water or chicken broth. So what I did here is added 8 cups of water, and then I added some chicken bouillon for flavoring. Now we're going to want to cook this for what the package says, which is about 60 minutes. However, since my pot was so full, this took almost an hour and a half to cook. Did you know that wild rice is high in protein? Pretty interesting. I also added in 2 tablespoons of butter. And I let this simmer on the stove, like I said, for about an hour and a half. And I stirred it every once in a while and tasted it until it was the exact right consistency or texture. And that is just a little bit chewy, but not crunchy at all. You don't want your wild rice to be too hard, but you don't want it to be too gummy. Now let's get over to the counter and get our veggies ready for this soup, and I'll speed this up. I cut 2 stalks of celery, 2 carrots, and 1 onion into small pieces. And then back over to the stove, I put in 2 tablespoons of butter, and we're just going to start heating these up until they get tender. And now for this recipe, I happen to use a rotisserie chicken. I drain the juice into my veggies, and then I just cut up the breasts into some chunks. Now you could certainly cook your own chicken. You could even use canned chicken for this recipe if you'd like. Once I cut that up, I seasoned it a little bit with some seasoned salt, some garlic salt, and a little bit of pepper. And then I also seasoned my veggies with a little bit of pepper and a little bit of seasoned salt. Of course, you can put in any of your favorite seasonings. Now, to make this soup a little bit thicker, I put in about 1/3 cup of flour. And if you want this soup any thicker, you could actually use a 1/2 cup. Now, we're going to cook this for about 1 to 2 minutes until that flour is cooked. And then I added in 8 cups of chicken broth. I made a big pot of soup this night. Now, once this starts to simmer, we're going to add in 3/4 cup of heavy whipping cream. This is what's going to make this soup so rich and creamy. Now we're ready to add in the rice and the chicken. So I added in, first of all, 1 cup of rice and then all of that chicken and stirred it around. And you know, if you cook at home, make soups, make anything homemade, you're going to want to taste it before you decide if this is just right. And I noticed right away when I was stirring it and when I tasted it, it could really use a little bit more rice. So I added in another 1/2 cup of that wild rice. And then I just brought it back up to a simmer, and this is ready to serve. This was such a delicious, creamy, a little bit salty from that chicken broth. That wild rice had a nice chew, and those veggies were so nice and tender. We all loved this soup. It was so, so good. I was able to freeze the rest of the wild rice so I can make it again and again. Let me know if you make this recipe, and if you liked it, it's become one of our favorites. Thanks for watching.